What is up, everybody? So we are on our new set, and today I'm joined by my friend and our production manager, Silvia Perez. So it is our first show in our new space, and I thought, what better guest to have than the woman who basically runs the majority of my life. So the premise of this is Sylvia and I have great conversations, and when we met a little over 2 years ago, Sylvia's story really moved me, and I'm going to give you some premise with that as I introduce you guys, so you can understand about a little bit about where Sylvia comes from, and then I'll shut up and let her take it from there. So 2 years ago, we were looking for a new production manager, and at that point in my life, I had really, I feel, reached a maturity standpoint as an entrepreneur and as a business owner where I started looking for different qualities. Not that there was anything wrong with the people that were here before, but I wanted different things in the person that I was going to be working with. And immediately when I met you, I was like, oh shit, this is the right person for us. I was like, she's mildly overqualified though. So I was actually worried that you weren't going to take the job. Because when I looked at her resume, it was intense. But that being said, given the story of where you had come from and what you had gone through and where you were at that point, it was actually a perfect fit as you were transitioning into what is a new life for you in the United States. And the reason I was excited to have you on is I think given the socio-economic political climate right now in the United States, given the fact that most people who've grown up in the past 10 to 15 years in the US, post September 11th, post the economic downturn of '08, living through what has been, a war overseas, we've lived in the most prosperous time, arguably, in the United States with the least amount of turmoil in the United States. Now, while we say that is the case here, by and large, over the world, there is a lot of chaos and there is a lot of turmoil. So we've been insulated from that. So when I hear people complaining about working too hard, starting from the bottom, having to swallow their pride and maybe take a job that is less desirable or that they're overqualified for, even if it's only going to be a temporary position to move forward, I know you did that. And I know that had to be really hard for you at that time. So if you could just introduce yourself, tell everyone what you do, and then let's get into your story.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. It's a little bit weird just to be on this side of the set.
So Sylvia runs the show, by the way. So that's why she said that.
With Gabe, of course. My background is in production. I'm actually a filmmaker, and I used to work in production for, I would say, now will be 10 years. But yeah, before I came to the US, I was working in HBO, Cinemax, Max, Sony. It was all this broadcast, and it was amazing. But political climate and also the opportunity to study in New York just set my life from scratch, from zero.
So I think to immediately start, just to give people premise of what you were doing in Venezuela, right? So you were, I don't want to butcher your position. So you were working for HBO as
I started as an assistant producer, making zero money.
Okay.
I actually left my job as an English teacher. Mm-hmm. Just kind of, I was in college, I was an English teacher, and then I started on HBO as an assistant producer. As an intern, I just decided, and I said, you know what, it's better to make zero money, but to be in the business. And I left being a creative producer with all this, the editor and stuff.
Cool. But so handling content generation for HBO,
handling a lot of content for HBO and Cinemax as well.
Which are same parent companies, right? No? Same companies, no?
It's the same company, yeah.
Just different properties.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So for people who aren't familiar with the geopolitical situation in Venezuela, right? Mm-hmm. So you had in essence, dictator in Chavez who ran the country. He passes away. Power changes over. As power changes over, things become substantially worse for the majority of Venezuelans, including yourself. So one day you wake up, and the country's in complete turmoil. The economy, which was the strongest Latin American economy, has now crashed. You come from a great family in Venezuela. All that's gone. So the life you know that you were leading at that point is now over. And I think that's really the point of the conversation here is that, in the United States, we really don't have that happen, minus the Great Depression, which was way further along than anyone in our day and age, for the most part, can remember, minus great grandparents that might be in their 90s at this point, still alive. That happened to you, right? So you wake up one day, everything's gone. Can you just fill us in on what that was like?
Yeah. And I think in my generation suffer most of it because I was 10 years old when Chavez came to destroy the country. And when I was in college, we started to see that everything was going down. But then I was 16, 17 years old. And yes, so you see how little by little all the supermarket didn't have any food, or you had to make a huge line just to buy gas. And we're talking about Venezuela.
Talking about a country who sits on some of the largest gas reserves, or natural gas reserves in the world.
Yeah, you have to make a line of like 3-4 hours just to get gas. We don't have any medicines. It's just everything started to get worse. I would say month by month. It was so fast. And my last year in Venezuela was in 2015. 2014 wasn't that bad. And when I came here in 2015, at the end of that year, everything collapsed. Yeah. I would say that everything collapsed.
And when we talk about massive inflation in an economy, a cup of coffee was once $1, which is now $10,000, right? And people don't get that. Now it's there is no value on anything. So it becomes, if you want a cup of coffee, you trade a banana for a cup of coffee. You go back to almost this middle age way of doing business. So if you would offer your services in exchange for something else, there's no money being exchanged because money has no value.
No value at all. Actually, people think that it's a joke when I say you go into a store, you buy a coffee, by the time you're out, is it double the price?
Yes.
And it's like, it's impossible. It's like, no, it is. Yeah. Actually, over the weekend, I was watching a video where a guy was putting packs of money on the register, and he was buying just 4 things in the supermarket. Yep. So money has no value, zero.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a similar case in Zimbabwe where they had the greatest case of inflation, currency devaluation ever, where it was like $2 billion would buy you a banana. It was a running joke. Money, they would walk around with barrels of cash. It was so silly. But so you lived through that. You came here, and what was the immediate perspective of kind of everything that you've worked for your entire life is now being reset in essence. And it's got to be, to a certain degree, mildly overwhelming to kind of, have built a life for yourself, come from a family that has means, live a very good life. You had a private education, right? So I'm trying to preface this so people understand. Yeah. You speak 4 or 5 languages fluently. All that's now gone, right? So now your way of life, your way of being has been erased.
Yes, I know that's the hardest thing that ever happened to me. Knowing that I had a dream job, I was in a very good position, I had all my family and friends, and then coming here, I only had one friend, and his mom was the one who helped me, living in a room, and just starting from scratch, studying and saying, okay, I'm a student again. Not only I'm a student again, I'm studying Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Like, what time or how am I going to be able to make a life, and
pay your rent
or so it was very, very tough. And I remember one of the first things that I remember is that I was crying because nobody wanted to rent an apartment because I didn't know what it was credit. Like, what is that? Score, I mean, of course, in Venezuela, I had a credit card and stuff, but what is credit? I didn't have that. I would say, yeah, look, I have my savings, I have this, but nobody cares. Nobody really cares here. Yeah. And that was tough because, like I said, I was here. Like, I was okay. Everything was fine.
Life was good.
Life was good. Yeah. And then I'm coming to a place where you feel completely into the void, because I don't think it's something that you can explain. I think that when you say like, yeah, all immigrant stories and all, no, when you feel it, when you feel that loneliness, that void, that you don't know how things are going to turn out.
Yep.
And everything looks dark. And I'm very positive. I always like try to say like, well, yeah, I mean, just look in the bright side when everything is completely fucked. But
But that being said, then you have the advantage of being bilingual. Like,
yes.
So you came to this country, which is a huge advantage, already
Yeah.
having a really good grasp on the English language.
Right.
A lot of people come here and they don't even have that.
Exactly. No, I had thanks to my family, I count with a wonderful family, and they really gave me, like I said, a private education, and they gave me all the opportunities. But still, I mean, you're here, you're alone, you don't know what to do.
And nobody fucking cares.
And nobody fucking cares.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if in any other state, but here in New York,
no one cares. In New York.
one cares. No. Like, it's
no
like,
one cares
oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah,
you can apply for another one. You can apply for another.
Yeah.
I can tell you how many times or how many emails I sent saying, hey, I have the money, which basically I didn't have that much. I only had probably for first and last and a security deposit. That's it. I always tell a story that for 4 or 5 months, I slept in an air mattress with no pillows because I either buy pillows or I either buy food. So when I look back right now, it's wow.
Yeah.
It's breathtaking.
Yeah.
You take it in and you say, yeah, that was you a few years ago. That wasn't 10 years ago. That was 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And you have to keep going. You just have to keep going and try to do your best.
So you sent me a text message, which you're probably going to kill me for talking about this, right? But, I think it was like close to about a month ago, which is right around the 2-year mark that we've been working together. And, we was talking about the future and all the things we have planned that we're going to be doing. But more so, it was the day you had the job, you had a choice. And the choice was, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was a subway ride here or a cup of coffee. Right, it was something like, let's call it $3. You had $3 left in your ATM account at that point. Your status was pending at that point, right? You were on your way to becoming a citizen, and the wonderful efforts of the U.S. government banned you from having a legal job here during your citizen, which people don't realize, right? As you're applying for citizenship, you have the potential of losing your work visa, in which case now you're legally in the United States, but you cannot legally work.
Exactly.
Right. So a lot of immigrants are faced with that, where they have legal status, but can't legally get a job, which could last anywhere from a week to months. So potentially you're in the country legally, yet you can't procure a job to pay your rent or put food on the table.
Exactly.
Which is in and of itself absolutely ridiculous. But
it's ridiculous.
So you were faced with that issue, right? Yeah. You're here legally. You now are on your way to getting a job. Your work visa is coming, and you're looking for employment because you know your work visa is coming. So you'll be able to work legally within a few weeks. And at that day, you're no longer bartending. You're no longer doing anything because you want your citizenship. You want to be an American citizen. And now you're faced with, do I buy coffee or do I buy an MTA card? Which I think for most people don't ever necessarily face that choice. You're down to $3. And I think most people who come from good upbringings really don't ever face that because, your parents can always bail you out, or you have a friend who can help you out. There's always someone, in essence. Very few people are ever left in a situation where it really comes down to that. And I know your situation, you as your family lost what they had in Venezuela, you come from parents who, your mom worked at DirecTV, your dad's an electrical engineer. Not stupid people, like well-educated, bright,
people who actually
had careers who were able to provide a life for you. And now all that's gone, and you're literally down to your last $3.
Yeah, it's I remember that because I came here, I did the interview, and you can start tomorrow. I can start tomorrow. It's like, I can start tomorrow. But in the meantime, I was facing that fact that I only had money for rent and MetroCard.
Yeah, when I said, can you start tomorrow? You're like, sure. I was
like, yeah, sure. I can start tomorrow. But
most time people are like, oh, well, maybe next week. No, Sophie was like, I'll be here tomorrow. 11 a.m. sounds good.
Yeah, that's good. And now you said, like, you just go to any place and you just buy, okay, just give me a latte, $5, and it's fine. It's totally cool. Yeah, but when you are in the situation, you can't afford it. And it's people are like, oh, it's $5. No, it's just $5 that adds up. $5 is it by then was a ride in the subway, you know?
Sure.
It you value that, you know, when you have it, when you see yourself now, it's the most valuable thing.
Sure.
You know, no, it's not just a cup of coffee. It's the fact that you can pay it forward now because you know that people have the same. They're in the same situation. They're probably working 2 jobs. They're probably in college. They're probably doing. And I think for the most part, a lot of people or a lot of immigrants, we've all been there. You know.
I think the other perspective it gives is it makes you not feel sorry for people who make excuses about accomplishing what they want to in life.
Oh, I hate that.
You know, and it's for people who sit there and complain or they want something, but they're not willing to put the work in. And it's really like, no, shut the fuck up and just do the work. Because if you do it, the end result is this. It's undeniable and it's factual that if you want things in life, if you're willing to put the work in and make the sacrifices necessary to accomplish those goals, you can accomplish anything you want.
I believe that as long as you have passion, you're going to accomplish everything. And I think that I've been lucky to have people around who value those things. And when I know people that complains, I'll just shut myself. And it's like, you have no idea how many people out there can value a job here or anywhere else, because you're probably not in a customer service or you're probably not working as whatever. Just do it with passion. Just don't do it for the money, because at the end of the day, it's something, you're going to pay the rent, you're going to pay, but as long as you do it with passion and grateful for what you have, I think that's the way to go. You know?
I think a lot of the times people who work within a company, if they feel like they don't have to treat it as if it was their own business. But when you do treat it, and I know you treat my business as if it was your own, but when you do treat it like that, number one, you build a great relationship with the person you're working with. And I truly feel if you're working for somebody who has good intentions, it opens up the possibility of doing so many other things, either within that company or outside that company, because now you've created value for yourself. And too many people just say, oh, it's not my business. And that attitude, it really fucking sucks, because if more people treated the business as their own, either A, when you move on to do something else, the owner of that business is then going to say, wow, let me tell you, I'm so sad Sylvia had to go, but I respect the fact that she moved on to, to do something else. But she when she was here, she was the best. And you'd be stupid not to hire her. Or B, you come to the owner of that company and you say, hey, listen, I've put my time in. I've shown you that I can handle A, B, and C. Mm-hmm. Let's do this, or let's branch out. Or I see an opportunity here. And now you've earned that person's trust and respect. And they say, yeah, let's do it. Right? Because now you know that person. And all too often, I feel employees of companies leave that on the table. Especially now. People think that they have this attitude of entitlement.
Oh,
and nowhere are people more entitled than in the United States.
Yeah.
We have this attitude of everything should be given to us, and we shouldn't have to work hard. And I should graduate, because I graduated college and I graduated from a really fancy private university. I deserve a job when I graduate.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, meanwhile, you have a degree in what?
You have a quarter of your life only.
If that now. Yeah. What experience do you have? What applicable real world? What can you do in the real world that is of value to any organization at 22 years old? Probably not much.
Yeah.
I mean, but we have this attitude that, oh no, I graduated from GW or I graduated from, Harvard.
Right.
You haven't.
Okay, but what have you really done?
Yeah.
It's like everybody can be book smart.
Yep.
But are you street smart? Do you have passion? A thing that I always see it, and I always try to apply in my life, which is you are too. You are an individual, which is the person that comes to do the job, to have moments of happiness. That person who is just a day by day persona. And then you have the human being, which is yourself, which is, what are your passions? You're an artist, you're a musician, you are an actor, you are a photographer, you are whatever you are, balance it out with the individual. That way, your life will be full. And you're going to find the fun part in the individual. And I always try to apply that in life because, yeah, you probably are in a position where your job is not the ideal job. But as long as you know that at the end of the road, you can put yourself and you can build something out of it, I think that's the point, you know? Instead of just like go clock in, clock out, you know? Yeah. I think that's your life. You're just going to make your life miserable.
Yeah, you can get out of anything what you put into it, you know. And
anything.
If you put in minimal, you get out minimal.
Right.
If you put in maximum, you're going to get out maximum. You know, and I tell people when they come on board, we're not a huge company, right? So when we hired Jake, right, he was young, 22-year-old video editor, and I was like, bro, you're going to learn the skills here, even though we're a small wedding business, that you can now take with you for the rest of your life. I'm like, Gabe's going to teach you how to edit, and that editing stays the same no matter who you work for.
No matter the footage you have, no matter the
footage,
you're going to have it.
The same rules apply. And he got it, you know, and he really put the work in. And I said, look, and he moved to Florida. I'm like, look, I can still give you work. You can still you can be an independent contractor with us. And he was like, all right, great. I didn't even know that was possible. I'm like, of course, bro, you've done the work over the past year with us, and you've now able to take that. And I'm like, look, man, and because he left on the right way, I made phone calls. I introduced him to people in Florida. Let me help you open those doors. And you know, whereas if he was a piss poor employee who showed up, like, you know, we've had people here in the past, I'm not making those phone calls. You know, you going to Florida? Good. No. See you later. You know, you're on your own. Yeah.
Have fun. Good luck. Yeah. You know, and yeah. Speaking of him, I every time he was trying to do something new, trying to what about this, guys? What do you think about? Yep. And those ideas count. That is so valuable because, yeah, for example, in this business that we're working right now, yeah, you're gonna have a beautiful wedding video. Yeah, you're gonna have beautiful wedding photos, but you don't want to have that same over and over and over.
Sure.
And once you, like I said, once you put a little bit of heart and just try a little bit more, you don't have to, I mean, your work is going to speak for you. You don't have to say like, oh, I'll do this or I'll do that. No, your work is going to speak for you.
Yeah, and it was funny too. I think back when we started this whole podcasting thing, which is now, I think we're on, you know, we've recorded 25 episodes, so we're in for 6 months, right? And initially, you know, the way it started was, I was like, oh, I want to do this, blah, blah. And you and I have the relationship where I've learned to get out of your way because you just took control over it, you know, and so I was gracefully smart enough to not get involved. And you were bold enough to take the initiative and say, hey, listen, it's great that you have this idea. I can do it way better. And I'll run it. You didn't have to do that, you know, and I know you've put in time outside of the scope of what your job is, but I know it also makes you happy. And this is where you are your best in production of video and film. And a lot of people would have just sat back and not said a word, knowing that they had the skill set to implement, to make something that the company was doing so much better. Yeah. And, you know, when I said, we're going to do something really simple with one camera and, you know, we don't need this and this. And you're like, okay. The next day I walk in, there's like 4 video cameras, there's lights, we have a production set, we have a Google spreadsheet with dates and times and guests. And you're telling me and Gabe, like, this is how we're going to do it, blah, blah, blah. And it works.
Yeah. Well, we needed it. We needed it.
And it's a lot better because of that. Yeah. But you did it. And you didn't have to, right? But you did. And I think that's the point of, you know, there's opportunities that come up in life, in work. And if you just sit back and expect those opportunities to come to you, the opportunities present themselves to us every single day in life. But when you saw that opportunity, you took it.
Yeah. Inspiration is going to find you working. Because sometimes when you're stuck, you're stuck. You're stuck. I'm a filmmaker and I'm stuck and I'm writing a script and I'm stuck. But if I'm not working on it, if I'm not on top of things, it's not going to find me.
Yeah.
And I think, and there's a lot of people out there. I remember when I was here in school, a lot of people are like, oh, I know I'm talented. It's like, great that you know you're talented, but you have to work really, 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 really hard, especially in this business. There's a ton of people that are talented out there. But if you don't work hard, if you don't really put yourself into work, you're never going to get anything. And
Yep.
you're going to die as a very talented human being.
Well, I think there's a ton of those people on Instagram right now.
Oh, my favorites. Yeah.
But
my favorites.
And no, the problem is, you know, the day Instagram changes that, their skill set, which is nothing, will go away.
Oh, yeah.
Their whole business is premised on looking good or just garnering attention, but they don't have an actual skill, or they're a master of no craft. Whereas there are people on Instagram who are amazing at a certain craft. You know, I follow a guy who makes knives. He's got a huge following, but he really makes amazing knives. So if Instagram went away tomorrow, he's still going to make amazing knives.
He's still going to make his job.
He's got a skill that you can never take away from him. He's a master metalsmith. But there's people who just take pictures of themselves.
Yeah.
That's not a skill. I mean, you know.
And that's a little weird. That's a little weird for me. Well, for you too. I didn't grow up with social media.
Yeah.
The only thing I had probably was Facebook when I was in college, and or probably like late years in high school, whatever. But it wasn't a thing. Like smartphones and stuff, it wasn't a thing. That's why sometimes right now it's like I have thousands of photos, I have thousands of videos, and I post once a month because I don't really feel that that's something that is like, if I want to share something, I share something. But yeah, there are a lot of people out there that their lives are going to be ruined if this Instagram thing changed, this whole no likes or following, whatever. And I want to see that. Oh, I want to see that.
So now that you've started to build this life, you have a beautiful girlfriend, Gab. You live in a great neighborhood in Brooklyn, right? It's fucking crazy to sit here and reflect on it. Your family's here in the U.S. You know, you're able to spend time with your parents. They're safe. Most importantly, your sister's here with her family and your nephew, right? So you guys have made it out, right? You made it out of Venezuela, and I think that in and of itself is a miracle, because there's so many families now, for people who don't understand what's going on, that can't get out.
Right.
You know, the government is not letting the citizens leave, so you're in essence trapped, or you have the ability to walk across the border to Colombia, which again, then now you're still a foreigner in a foreign country, even though it's the same land in essence. You can't just walk into Colombia and start a life for yourself.
Oh no.
And they don't necessarily have the greatest economy right now anyway to support the migration of people out of Venezuela.
The exodus is,
and there's a mass exodus of people walking out.
It's...
and you know, for people who understand that, other countries are nowhere near as accepting as the United States has been over time of immigrants, given, with exception, the past 6 years. This is a country that was built on foreigners, right? There is, you know, the American dream is what this is all about. It's about coming from other places and building a life for yourself here. And we are a capitalist country, and one of the only countries in the world where you can accomplish anything you want. But for people now, so they can understand how bad things are there right now, right? So regime change, government, economies in turmoil still. For people who haven't kept up on the news, for the people who are stuck there, I mean, there's in essence basically a civil war going on right now between the two opposing parties. There's no economy, there's no jobs, there's a food shortage, there's an energy shortage, ironically, which a country that's sitting on more natural resources than most other places in the world.
I never thought I would see my country like that. I remember hearing when I was younger saying, oh, Venezuela's not going to be Cuba. Venezuela's not going to be Cuba. And now we're worse. It gets me every time because I think that you as a human being, you look back and you think about your childhood and your friends and your family. 30% of my family is in Spain. 20% of my family is here in the US. A few percent are in South America, call it Chile, Argentina. That's it.
Yep.
And this is just one family. This is just my family. I mean, we're Latinos. We're a big family. Yeah, there's a lot of us. But the thing is that for me to have my family and my friends in one spot again, is emotionally devastating.
your land, like people don't understand that, but there's like an emotional attachment to, it's your country. And it's like, imagine if tomorrow New Yorkers were banned from New York and we
Exactly.
had to leave, and you can only leave with a suitcase, apartment, house, everything stays.
Everything stays.
The government in many cases have seized your assets, so you only have bank accounts that were set up outside of the country if you have those.
That's the other problem. That's the other thing that I was going to talk about Venezuela.
If you have Venezuelan bank accounts, the government's not letting you take your money out.
Oh, not at all. Yeah. And there's a thing that is happening there that I understand, but I don't think is fair. And when things are not fair, I get extremely frustrated. Sure. There are two Venezuelas. There are the people that are extremely poor, that they don't have access, or they make $2 a day.
Which is about 98% of the country right now.
Exactly. And they're the other 2%.
Which have everything.
Have everything. And when I say everything, is that all the businesses and everything is made in another currency. Call it dollars, call it euros.
Yes, yep.
So you see on Instagram, or you see all these things, and it's like, oh, but Venezuela is not that bad. Sure. It's like, no. This is the other Venezuela. This is the 2%. The people who, that's fine. They probably had a business, and their business it's going well, or they were working with the government at some point, or call it whatever. But that's just 2%. That they can still survive, and they're not stupid. They're not going to go to any other country because they know that what they have there, or what they're taking advantage there, that's not going to happen in any other country. Sure.
And they've aligned themselves with the correct political party too, which, if you were anti-Chavez as the Chavez regime came in, well, you were either put in jail, right, excommunicated, or they stripped you of all your wealth and nationalized your business. So for people who don't understand what went on in Venezuela was, Chavez went to the people and said, look, I'm just going to take back all these privately owned businesses.
Exactly.
Because it's going to be better for you. Mm-hmm. And ultimately,
they believe he's like, oh, he's a great man.
He's a great man, yeah.
We're going against the
rich.
And
I'm going to redistribute that wealth. And ultimately, instead of having private business, you now have a national business controlled by one person. And if you were Chavez's boy, you got paid.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you were golden.
Big money.
You got big money. Yeah. If you were anything but that, or spoke out against the government, you were put in jail. Your money was stripped away from you. Your wealth was stripped away from you. And now you were part of that 98%. So you went from rich to poor overnight. And you now have no job, no house. Your house is seized. Your assets are seized. Your cars are taken away. Everything's gone.
And that is happening. It's a lie that people is like, oh, no, no, that is happening. The amount or the percentage of people that are dying because of lack of food or medicine, it's a fact. Yep. And it is a crisis. And sometimes I think it's like, when is this going to end? Like,
I think what people also don't get too is, there's a lot of people use the word political refugee, right? And I think by and large, people use that term in the sense of my country is in political turmoil. Right. So now I need political asylum in the United States. And that's true. Mm-hmm. A lot of people can't go back to their country of origin because they have nothing there, right?
Right.
But then there are other people who are actually in need of political asylum because if they go back to their country of origin, they'll be put in jail.
Immediately.
Yeah. As they'll be literally taken out of the airport as soon as their passport's scanned and be placed in jail. So I know you were very outspoken post-Chavez with the regime changes for what went on. So as a protester, as someone who is anti-government, there is no free speech in those countries.
Not at all.
And the more you speak out, or anti whatever the current status quo is, you're only faced with two things. One is you're stripped of everything you have, or you're put in jail.
Right. No,
or in some cases, I would garner to say a lot of people are probably very quietly killed.
Oh, yeah. Or we don't know what happened.
They just disappear.
In this, and they just, I don't know. It's just, it didn't have enough. They speak. And they're evil. They're just, oh yeah, we don't know what happened. And that's it. It's just quietly killed. I was very, very, very against the government. I was in every protest. I remember one story that, let's just make this clear. My mom was a TV producer for one of the biggest networks in my country. She worked there for, I think it was for 30 years, and the government shut it down. Mm-hmm. That means that my mom one day woke up, she didn't have a job. So for a whole year, she wasn't working. She was just home. And we're talking about the person that I most admire in my life. She's a producer and she's hardcore. Like, she's a rock star. And I saw the depression in because of it, because of the government. So I saw firsthand how that affected directly my family. And for me, that was brutal. So every single protest, I was just there. I was there. And I remember I was doing, that's a story that I was going to tell. I was doing some posters and stuff because students were getting killed. In the same process that I was in, students were getting killed. And I remember my mom says, like, just stop going, just stop doing it, stop going. And it's like, I just can't.
That would be the advice I'd give my daughter too.
Yeah, no, I know.
It's rational.
Yes, of course, because you see all these people and you have names tattooed in your brain. As the
government's running citizens over of their own country with tanks, yes, it's time to go home.
Yeah, it's time to go home.
And I get the people though to have the courage to stand out there while that's happening, but I wouldn't want my child out there. And so I understand where your parents are coming from in that sense.
Yeah.
Like they don't want something to happen to you.
And I remember having a conversation with them, and I posted posters on social media, and they were extremely upset. They were like, you can't do that. These things, they can just take you, because they were taking people from posting things on Twitter. Mm-hmm. So I posted on my Instagram, I posted on my Facebook, I posted on my Twitter, and my parents were completely mad. They were like, you can't do that. I'm like, I don't care. Like, I don't care. If we don't do anything right now, this is going to be the end of us. And that was it. I mean, we didn't have the support. Us as a society, us as students, we didn't have the support on the other side to kill this. And I'm responsible to say that if the government's still there, it's for a reason. And I don't think that the opposition has been strong enough, or probably they have connections with them, or I don't know what's going on, but we didn't feel support. And that moment, I decided to leave. I decided, okay, so my whole life I wanted to study in New York, and I think this is going to be my year. And I turned the page, and I'm here.
What was it like watching your parents go through what they went through as their child? Like knowing your parents, like bright, educated, hardworking, good people, and seeing their lives being, in essence, in a lot of ways, taken from them.
It was brutal, because you don't deserve that. Especially as you get older.
Sure.
As you get older, you sit back and relax, and you see your kids grow, and you see your grandchildren grow. And I don't see that in my parents. I didn't see it in my parents. Every time I was here and they were there and having conversations, and I knew the political climate there because I was still extremely attached to what was going on. That's when my sister and I would just make a decision and say, you know what, we just have to do something, because that's the thing. If something happened there, I can go back.
No, they can't go back.
So if God knows what happened in my country, which is I believe is the most dangerous city. Caracas, I think, it was the most dangerous.
The most dangerous. I think Tijuana might be number 1 or number 2, but I think Caracas is in the top 2 or 3
We're really close.
Where there's not a declared war.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if something,
but even if they were there, you can't get food. Yeah. I mean, like, what kind of life is it? You have to go to the grocery store and you want chicken. Well, there's no chicken, so you might get a bag of rice. And then you have to live on that bag of rice for 4 or 5 days.
Or like you're like, okay, we have lentils and we don't eat the protein because we eat this or with it. I'm like, that's not life.
It's vegan by force.
Yeah, by force, exactly. I mean, I'm vegan because I want, but it's like
protein's so much more expensive.
Yes, and I was listening to it, and I was listening to it, and I was listening to it, and I said, yeah, I mean, it was rough because I was here. I didn't have a lot of money either. and how can I help them? How can I? And then after over the years, we came to the solution. But the thing is that they worked so hard their entire life, and they gave us the best childhood. I mean, and the best. I mean, we were traveling um, the world with them, and it was so fun because that's the best. And I learned that that's how you spend the money. You travel, and and you just see other things and experience other things. Um, and to know that now we had to pay them we have to pay tickets for them to come here to visit because they didn't have food to buy or it just switches and the switch was so fast that I don't even remember the year. It was just like that. It was really rough.
Yeah, and I think one of the characteristics of immigrant families very often is a lot of times the children now have the responsibility of taking care of their parents financially, especially in your situation where your parents come over, they're older in life, harder to find work in the United States. There is ageism,
Right.
like anything else. If you're 60 years old versus someone who's 30, it's, although I think a lot of times companies could use someone who's a little older and a little wiser because they've had a lot more experience.
Right.
And I think that's a great movie by with De Niro when he plays the intern.
Oh, yeah.
Because they bring to the table something, right? But in this case, you and your sister now forced or faced with the you want your parents to be safe, but with that comes the inherent responsibility of it flips, and your parents who provided this life for you, now it's your turn to pay that forward back to them. And I think a lot of people have a hard time understanding that aspect of life.
And it's fine with us.
Yeah.
Because they were there. When I applied for my scholarship, I had a partial scholarship, and the rest of the money you have to pay the government in order for the government to pay the school here, because the only way to get dollars is the black market or the government. And the government didn't pay the school.
Of course.
The government didn't. So I was in the limbo here, passing to second semester without knowing if I was going to be able to finish or not. That being said, it's like, if you don't finish your career, I was not going to be able to apply for the OPT, which in the United States, if you don't know, the OPT is if you're if you're an international student, if you're here for a year, you're allowed, the government allows you to have 1 year of work in your field. And for me, that was amazing because I wanted to work. But if you don't finish your career, the school is not going to apply. It's not going to back you up for that. So that was a lot of stress for me as well. And of course, the government didn't pay. And my family came to the rescue and said, these are all our savings. Just put it towards it. And when your life changed like that, you just don't think. You just go and says like, yeah, they were there for me. You have to be there for them.
So looking back on your journey of 5 years now, what do you think the greatest lesson you walk away with from everything you went through?
I think it's going to be just keep going. Because I had really dark moments. And now that I'm here and I look back, everything had a reason to it. And I had a really easy life. When I was there, I had it easy. My only responsibility was going to school and then going to college and then apply for a job. And then I worked really hard and I got another job. But that was it. And then I think I needed that. I needed to understand that you have to go in your own way. And life is going to get better. It doesn't matter if it's going to take years. It might take years. It might take months. For some people, from lucky people, it probably take just a few months. for me, it was years of that. And like I said, at the beginning, I was here, then I was down, then I was here again, and then I was down again. And then I'm just going back up. And life's going to hit you, man. You know, it's going to hit you. Emotionally, physically, in your job or whatever. It's going to hit you. So you just have to look. And it says, like, if I did that, I can do whatever. So I think that the most valuable thing that I have is just, I'm really proud of being an immigrant. And
as you should be.
Yeah, and I have a story of survival. You know,
if you were looking back on yourself 10 years ago, right? So you have this great life, and if you could walk away with everything you went through now, and give yourself one piece of advice to the 10-year younger Silvia, what would it be?
Do it now. And buy dollars. invest in
Do
another.
I like that one.
Because
well, tomorrow's not promised to any of us.
Yeah, because I mean, we're talking about 10 years ago. I was 21,
yep.
So I was barely graduating from college.
Sure.
And I was an assistant producer in HBO.
Sure, life was
is
good.
Beautiful, you know, like but you're young, and you have a good job. You hang out, you do stuff, and then you want to build a career and all that. But it's like, I would say that 10 years younger, just do it now and save some money. Yeah.
I think we're coming up on almost an hour. I know we both can talk a really long time. So yeah, I just want to I want to thank you for everything you do for the company, right? And I want to thank you more importantly for your friendship, because, you know, the unintended consequence of hiring you was I got a great friend out of this deal, you know, and I think someone who I will have in my life, whether you are here or not, for a long time. And that I'm truly grateful for, above and beyond just having you here at the office, which you do a stellar fucking job on top of. But what I'm more grateful for is just having you in my life as someone who's there. And I know we're going to do some cool shit together. We're working on some projects right now that, you know, in 2020 will be coming out. And when they drop, we'll definitely talk about them a little bit more. But, and, you know, just for always being a person that handles themselves with integrity, someone who, whether it's showing up to work or whatever it is fully present, is fully committed to the task at hand. And I think, you know, you bring that leadership to this company, and my company's never been better because of it. And I know you carry with yourself a really great moral compass, you know, and you're always guided by what the right thing to do is. And I've been smart enough, thankfully, to listen to that compass sometimes in my own decision making. So, you know, again, I just want to thank you for being you. I want to thank you for having me, having and everything you do with the podcast. Anyone who listens to it, without Silvia, Gabe, and Jake, none of this would happen. Specifically, without Silvia telling myself, Gabe, and Jake what to do, none of this would happen. So again, I just want to thank you, and I look forward to many more of these.
Thank you for the opportunity. And you were there, you know, really
don't start crying
time.
On me, Silvia. You're gonna cry too.
And no, man, and I think, you know, that I really appreciate everything that you do, not only for me but for us. And
I'd say cheers, but I'm not drinking till 2020.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thank you so much.
All right, cool. Thank you.